What film has good reviews, but you know you will never like? Whiplash is both well-reviewed and has a general public appreciation. But all I see is a euphorically vicious drummer and an abusive teacher who enables this life approach. I mean, it is excellently acted. I'll give this film that. I think something like Mr. Holland's Opus, while less appreciated, does a good job of showing a mostly healthy student-teacher relationship. And so, maybe the thing is, it is impressive for Damien Chazelle to take what is essentially music-driven drama and make it feel like a contemporary thriller. But the whole hysteria is just ... not my tempo. Annihilation. I've tried to watch it several times. The movie is beautifully shot, has a great cast and fantastic premise, but the dialogue is almost AI generated in how by the numbers it is, and every character is just a wooden caricature. There's no subversion, no playing with tropes. It's art through checking off desirable boxes. Watch Arrival instead. Came out a year prior and has a different goal and themes as a movie, but it nails it what it's trying to do so much better. I'd like to extend it to a genre, Oscar-bait films, usually encompassing biopics, the political climate at the time. I taught you recently Poor Things. I've watched a few times, but upon repeated watches, it comes across as drawing too much inspiration from Metropolis, which is previously noted. But it feels like if David Lynch got hold of Edward Scissorhands via Luis Buñuel. Hit a nerve, it appears. As someone who just found this, and only partially watched, with my parents ... Poor Things. At the time it had a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, an AAT audience score. We watched it, and it's just porn, like. The premise is so fetishized, it's fucked. Made me fully awaken to the fact that I give absolutely zero fucks about whatever Rotten Tomatoes thinks. Pretty Woman ... and Runaway Bride, I don't know if that has good reviews tbh. I just really dislike Richard Gere, and don't think he has any chemistry with Julia Roberts. The original plot to the film was supposed to be a cautionary tale about the dangers for sex workers in LA. I think that could have worked better. But just not with Richard Gere. Basically any movie that is praised into heaven before I can even give it a try. You should watch this. Have you watched it yet? It's so good. It's the best movie ever. You've never seen that? Are you even alive? Then I watch it and I'm like, yeah. It's a pretty decent movie. But it's been talked up so much it's just meh for me now. I think Oppenheimer was an incredibly overrated movie. Too many plot lines and not focusing on any of them. The frequent scene cuts are disorienting, and the trademark Nolantine not being linear only makes an already convoluted movie much harder to follow. How many times I've started Blade Runner or The Matrix and haven't made it past the 45 minutes mark. Love the concepts. But oh my god, I couldn't get into it. I thought about going back and really trying to watch Matrix. But the thought of watching the first 20-minute sequence for the 5th time sounds like torture. Everything Ari Aster makes. I don't feel tension when watching a movie. His movies are all an hour and a half of tension building with 10 minutes of things actually happening at the end. Because I don't feel the tension. It's an hour and a half of unbearably boring nothing with a crap payoff at the end. Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire 2009. At one point, it had like 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Ultimately, it's just basically lurid poverty torture porn. I know I will never like it because I've seen it twice. I gave the film a second chance years later and still pretty much hated it. Infinity War and Endgame. Ignoring the fact that the villain's grand master plan has no foresight. It's about quippy one-liners and fancy dancing lights. Which, don't get me wrong, it has its place, like the same way trashy dime store novel has its place. But we all recognize one as trash. I will never not utterly detest The Lobster. Hated everything about it. I've never walked out of a film in the cinema, but I wish I had for that one. I actually really enjoy Poor Things by the same director. I almost didn't watch it because I hate The Lobster so much. Megan 2022, I don't get what people see in this movie. It's painfully nonsensical. Humor that it has is bland and is boring to watch. I don't see why the movie was hyped up when it came out and why it has great reviews. It's very mediocre. Edit minor typo, it's N3GAN. Manchester by the Sea. I thought it was misery porn, and I was almost laughing in the theatre. They just kept piling on sad thing after sad thing. And while we're at it, I appear to be the only one in the world who didn't like the Fallout show. The Barbie movie, maybe I'm just very cynical, but IMO even for kids to humor and some of the production value was absolute garbage. Good example of how building up enough hype about something, people will love it regardless of how crap it is. Deadpool films, fourth wall breaking is fun, but not when it's overdone. I only needed to see the trailer to know I wouldn't like Deadpool. Not to mention the only film I ever really liked Ryan Reynolds in was that one where he was buried alive. Johnny Darko. I said what I said. I've encountered many men who claim this as their favorite movie because it's so deep and thought-provoking, and I must not have liked it because I didn't get it. I got it and still didn't enjoy it. Hereditary. It sucked. Was boring, not scary. I want my time back. It's not that crazy or deep and everyone seems to think it's this great movie. Slow burns are one of the worst genres to have come out in the last decade or so. Dune ... I love ESCIF, but it's more of a nod to special effects wardrobe. I watched the first one, got to the end and thought, well, 3 hours of nothing just happened. Second one was near enough the same. Dune. I've seen 1 too, haven't read the books. Debatably the most boring and over-dramatic movies I've ever seen. 1/3 of the movies are wah, and slow months of constant CGI. All the people saying Oppenheimer was boring baffles me. The movie keeps moving constantly, very propulsive, definitely dips in the last hour, but up until the bomb scene is constant tension and build up. Terrifier was well met from viewers, but I thought it was fucking terrible even for a horror movie. I do love the genre, but the acting was awful and it was just gore porn. Tried the sequel and same thing. Barbie movie. I know it's not for me. And all that empowering women stuff doesn't appeal to me. I acknowledge the dedication and the efforts though. It's not easy to commemorate a legendary doll. Pretty much any musical. I can suspend disbelief and enjoy even the most outlandish sci-fi or fantasy. But when most of the dialogue is in song form, it completely takes me out of the experience. I love Jordan Peele and have bought everything he's written, directed, or produced. I cannot make it through I get to the punch and I give up. I've tried to watch it a dozen times now. I've never watched Inception, and I'm reluctant because I feel it is way too hyped, and I'll only see it as a watch how many plot twists in a row can fit in a single movie type of thing. Knives Out, Glass Onion. It's strange how a movie can seem arrogant, but this one accomplishes that. It has this impression of I am the greatest thing you will have the pleasure of seeing. Monster 2003 with Charlize Theron. Sometimes, you just have pass. I heard it really good, but everyone also said there is one scene that is completely disgustingly effed up. No thanks. Everything Everywhere All at Once ... Critics loved it. People raved about it. I found it weird, was just looking at it the whole time going what the actual fuck just happened. Not a movie but a series. Black Mirror. All of the episodes I have watched were just remakes of Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, etc., with modern technology incorporated in it. Oppenheimer. Because I don't care for movies that are more than maybe 2 hours long. Nor do I care for historical or biographical stories. They usually make me fall asleep. Anything by Zack Snyder, poor ass writing. Bad acting and directing. Saving grace as photography in his movies, and even that gets dull with CGI after a while. Killers of the Flower Moon ... I love slow movies. I love watching very long movies with subtle plots making you question things. But this was just not my thing. Anchorman 2, just why? Why would you take the money to make such a horrible piece of garbage? Most comedy sequels blow anyways, but this one took the cake. People were raving about Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson. I just really hated it and didn't see what people were talking about saying it was good. Fargo. I've watched twice. Once in my teens. Once I'm my 20s. I plan on watching it once more now that I am 40. But honestly, I don't see the hoopla about it. I remember walking out of Insomnia in the movie theaters because I couldn't keep my attention. I didn't even know Robin Williams was in the damn thing. The Dark Knight. God, I hated that film. And I never thought hating a Batman film was possible. I can't even hate on Batman and Robin on that level. Get Out. It sat at 100 on Rotten Tomatoes for a while. I think it's at 98 now. At best, it would have been an interesting episode of Black Mirror. Color of Pomegranates. Revered by filmmakers all over. But since I'm not a filmmaker, I think it's just weird and trying so hard to be something. Avatar, despite its immense box office success and technological achievements, its storyline and characters to be overly familiar or cliché. Star Trek. Sorry nerds. It's just a campy. The music is generic orchestra droning. And it takes an hour 15 minutes of stuff to happen. Shameless. I just never was able to enjoy it for some reason, despite it being the type of show I'd usually like. It just doesn't appeal to me.